guys. Today I want to talk about a simple thing, making a fist. It should be pretty simple, right? You close your hand and you hit something. But every style of martial arts has their own set of rules and principles and concepts involved in making a fist. And there are things to consider, like how much power can you transfer through your hand to the target you're hitting. It varies depending on how you use your fist. And then the other thing to consider is injuries. How bad can you hurt your hand depending on the structure that you use. So I mean, with regards to those two topics, if you hit something, you want to transfer the weight of your body through your arm into the target that you're punching. So some things can get in the way of that. You might have created a lot of force, but on the way to your target, that force gets lost in a weak shoulder or a bent elbow, or even worse, a wrist that isn't centered. And so, you know, at the very least, you don't transfer all the power that you've generated into your target. And worse is that, for example, if your wrist is bent, you'll sprain your wrist. So you start getting injuries. So these are subjects that, you know, there's a lot of things to consider. I'm not going to talk about anything from the wrist back, but today I'm just going to talk about from the wrist through your fist, considering this part of making a good fist. So there's kind of two main schools in using your fist. One is about pronating. So when you punch, you twist your fist this way, and it gives you a little bit more extension, and so it allows you to transfer a little more power into the target that you hit. And the other one is just using a vertical fist, so it doesn't have that extra movement at the end. And it, in a way, it transfers a little bit less power. So those are the sort of two main schools of using a fist, and we'll talk about those a little bit too. But to begin with, in our style of martial arts, there's rules and regulations about even how to form a fist. And this comes from Huang Pu. So my teacher's teacher was the main Longfist teacher at a military school called Huang Pu. So it was the top military school in the East at that time. And so that was, at that time, hand-to-hand combat was still a possibility, much more than it is now. So they paid a lot more attention to this aspect of martial arts. And, you know, it also, nobody knows where the studies or these styles really started in a lot of cases, but they accumulated knowledge over hundreds of years. In the case of Longfist, maybe thousands of years. Nobody really knows for sure. There's legends, but nobody really knows. So in our style, to begin with, to make a fist is very specific. You start by curling your knuckles in very tight, so there's no spaces here. Then you curl them in the rest of the way, so there's no spaces in here. Then on the second finger, you draw a line from knuckle to knuckle through the center of your finger, and then you draw another line across it through the center of your finger, and where those lines cross is where the tip of your thumb should end up. So, and then you squeeze. So this is, you'll see, everything in here is solid, there's no spaces, and it's a very solid, well-structured fist. So that's where it starts in this style. The other thing is that how do you position your fist? There's this idea, again, of transferring force from your body through your arm into the bag, in this case. So there's a boxer, think his name is Jack Dempsey, he wrote about this. He called it a line of power. And what he was talking about is something that we've had in our martial arts, for hundreds of years, and it's probably much deeper than at least what he wrote about in his book. He probably knew more than he wrote about. So this idea is that you press against your target, and you should find a place where the weight transfers through your arm, and in theory, that's where you can transfer the most force into in this case, the bag. And then, in his book, he claimed that would be your knuckle down here, but it's weak. So then you turn your hand back up and you use the middle knuckles a bit more. So it's kind of interesting because we kind of, in our style, come to a similar conclusion. So our fist is called a natural fist. And the way we get there is we look at, let me back up a little bit. Like, there's a lot of discussion among styles about how you line up this fist with the bones in your forearm. Sometimes you want to make a nice straight line here. Some will drop the elbow and make a line here. In the vertical fist, some people will claim you should turn your hand this way and some this way. But in this fist that we use, called the natural fist, you try to find the natural position where you can transfer power through your hand. My teacher, he was pretty old and he didn't speak much English, and he kind of used charades for a lot of what he wanted to teach. When he talked about how to hold your fist, he's going, well, does somebody have to teach you how to hold your head on your shoulders? Like, would you walk around like this, or like this, or like this? No. You find the most useful way to position your head on your shoulders, so that you can see the best, so you can hear the best, so that you're the most agile and in the most strong position that you can be in. And those are natural things. And he was using that to say nobody should tell you exactly how to hold your wrist, but it should follow principles that are useful. So in our teaching, we do a similar thing. We extend the hand, and we try to push on a bag or a wall or a tree or whatever, and then try to feel where, maybe there's some flex in the wrist or the arm or shoulders, and just find that position for your fist where you can transfer the most power into the object. And where it turns out in our teaching is mostly in somewhere around the middle of the front of the fist. So that's, in a way, you're transferring the force right through the middle of your fist, through the middle center, the bones in your arm, into your body. So depending on the structure of your hand, the size of your bones and muscles and ligaments and all that, you may end up with your wrist whatever it is. But the natural teaching is that you just want to be able to transfer your power through your fist. So that's how we teach how to hold your fist. And be careful that when you do that, you take into account the possibility of your wrist moving. It has to be through the center of your bones, really, and that's the position that you have to find. So we use the vertical fist, right? So again, studies show that the vertical fist is faster than using a pronated fist. It's faster to complete this cycle from start to finish. And in my own personal experience, I used to pronate my punches, and I've broken all these bones in here, all of them, well, at least the last two. And since I've started using vertical fists many years ago now, I've never injured, even felt like sprained anything in this part of my hand. So I'm kind of a proponent of the natural fist now. But either way, those are all things that people consider in making a fist. So there's actually a lot of theory behind a good fist. So the other thing that's in our style is that we only use the fist to the torso, basically. There's a few exceptions, but mostly to the torso. And again, the reason is that we have no gloves. You know, in boxing or kickboxing, you wrap your hands in like a wrap, like a big band-aid, and in a closed position, so it's almost like having a soft cast on your arm, on your hand, that keeps it in the right position and supports all these bones. And you have a glove on top of that to help not break your bones when you hit something. And so, you know, headshots are probably the number one punch with the fist. But in reality, if you use your fist and you hit somebody's head, what you find is because the head is mostly hard surface, there's very little flesh on your head. Most of the time you will break or injure a bone in your hand. It's not uncommon to break these bones or these bones hitting the head with a fist. So our teaching is that for the head, it's mostly open hand. There's many different positions, or for the back of the arm or something like that to hit the head. But the fist drills into the body. So, okay, that's a little bit about making a fist and some of the ideas about things that we think about when using a punch with a fist. So, yeah, I hope you find something useful from that, and practice hard. Bye for now.